Our government is taking proactive steps to ensure students remain cared for and families supported in the event that unions decide to further escalate job action in their fight for enhanced compensation and other demands. Today I'm announcing our government's plan to offer parents up to $60 per day to offset the cost for childcare if strikes action close schools or school-based childcare centers.
How appalling that is. How insulting to parents in this province that he's trying to transparently bribe them for support. Get back to the table, agree to the proposals we have on around those priority funds, put that $50 million into the system for today, tomorrow, and into the future.
That was Ontario Education Minister just prior to that clip, Stephen Lecce, offering assistance to families of elementary school students affected by rotating strikes, plus some reaction from the head of the union, Sam Hammond. Parents across Ontario are bracing for more school closures next week. The Elementary Teachers Federation is planning a one-day strike on Monday in the Toronto, York Region, and Ottawa-Carleton school boards. And today there were picket lines around many secondary schools. We're here with the Power Panel, Tim, Chris, and Kathleen. Love saying that.
Tim.
Kathleen, I'm going to start with you. Let's talk the politics of the announcement today from the provincial government, from Minister Lecce. Is it smart politics?
It is the Mike Harris playbook. You could actually rewind back to 97. It's the whole idea, introduce a bad policy, right? Then create a crisis and then bribe parents. It is literally a rewind 22 years, and you'll see the Harris government playing out the exact same thing. So they are, what's interesting to me is that they're doing it at the same time they're trying to bribe parents with the $60 a day. At the same time, we're actually seeing pretty spectacular support from parent-teacher organizations across the province, and parents generally so far have stayed in solidarity with the teachers. We haven't seen a fracturing of that yet. Maybe that's because of the nature that it's just one day here, one day there, and it's only going to ramp up really next week. So wait and see. But when the Minister of Education, Stephen Lecce himself, is saying this is going to cost up to $48 million a day, according to Rob Benzie, that is $48 million a day to offer this.
They're saying, though, that they're not paying teachers that day either, right?
Which is 60 million.
But then why wouldn't you put that back into the education? That's money that could clearly go into helping students with special needs. It could help with the massive infrastructure problems we have in our schools. It could help with not going through the changes to, grow the class sizes that they have, not reducing the number of caring teachers in our classrooms. These are all things that could change. So I think it's predictable and politics on behalf of this Conservative government. I don't think it's good for students or good for families.
Do you think, though, it will blunt any of the concerns, Tim Powers, from parents, or do you think it will work? Will it win the government any favor with parents?
Well, I think Kathleen hits on a good point and a bigger point, which is, look, both sides, the teachers and the government, are trying not to be the side that irritates the parents. The few of us on this panel have school-age children, and so far, well, you may not be on either side, and not really on either side of this. You're not irritated yet, but I'm starting to get irritated now because I see there's another rotating strike coming on Monday. The announcement for childcare, I'm lucky enough I don't have to avail of that, so that has no bearing on me. But it does have a bearing on a lot of people, whether it keeps the public neutral, which is where the government wants to keep them, because I think the government's longer-term plan here is to try and wait them out and provoke the teachers to take a more aggressive posture, which then allows them to act. The one thing I will say where there is a difference, I think that Stephen Lecce is a good messenger. He's not deliberately being provocative. He's reflected the change that the Ford government's had here. Now, whether he can stay in that position, we'll see or not. But if the teachers increase their labor actions, he may have more currency on his side. And
interestingly, he has been the chief sort of spokesperson around these negotiations and this file. Tomorrow, we're expecting to hear for the first time in a while from Ontario Premier Doug Ford, who I'm sure will be asked about this. So it'll be interesting to see if he's able also to sort of communicate in the same manner as Minister Lecce so far. Tim Murphy, what do you think?
Yeah, so these, disputes between teachers and the provincial government have happened, in a variety of ways through different sets of governments. And as, one of the things that you have to understand is there's little waves to them. And so, there's a point in which people will get irritated initially with the teacher, then with the government. and there's a fight over who's going to bear that burden. But eventually, even if they get mad at the teachers, the disruption will result in people being mad at the government as well. And it's a fight about where you get to at that position. But it has two implications. One of which is, this is, Mike Harris was generally a more popular premier at the points when people made their electoral choice than I think Doug Ford is. So there's a bit of weakness in this government's position. But secondly, what ended up happening was it mobilized a whole lot of teachers and parents to fight against the government. And that might be the long-term damage that the Ford government is doing itself, is providing a whole group of people who will be out to beat it at the polls. And it's where that goes is a bit of an open question right now, as between the Liberals and the New Democrats.
Although unions, like the teachers one, were never really in favor of Doug Ford in the first place.
No, and
yeah, but they were not very active in the last campaign.
I've worked in Newfoundland and Labrador where the government of the Clyde Wells picked on the teachers because they're an easy target. Education is a big part of a provincial budget. And by doing this, they do obscure the big issue here, which is it's not just about wages for teachers. It's about classroom size. It's about learning
Although
resource.
they've said they'll give on the classroom
size.
size.
They have said they would give on it. It's about online learning, all of these sorts of things that are complicated issues that have an impact on the quality of education. So instead, what we're arguing about is withdrawals of service, which is really all the teachers have as their weapon right now, and an offer now to use taxpayers' money to compensate them for any costs they incur having to put their kids in childcare, or if they don't, just pocketing $60. It's buying people off with their own money has never proven to be a particularly long-term successful ploy by any government at any level. We'll see if this one works, but right now I think what I live in Ontario, my kids aren't involved in this, but in the end is how much school will be missed, particularly if you're in high school and you're coming up to exams, which most of them are now at the end of January.
But on that point, the OSSTF has said today that they're not going to interrupt or have any work action during the exam period. So those high school folks that are semestered and going into exams in the next couple of weeks, they say they're not going to have disruptions during that period, which I think, is, point over to OSSTF in terms of ensuring.
I just don't know if parents are like that. You know what I mean?
I feel like have high school kids who are worried about.
No. I know. I just mean like the point thing. Like I wonder if parents are there saying, I kind of blame this one more, then I blame this one more. Like I think they're just worried about taking care of their kids and making sure, what I mean?
Sure.
At the end of the day, they might just be blaming everybody.
They may just be blaming each other, but when you start to point out to the fact that the government has not come to the table with any proposals, right? That they consistently, they're actual negotiators. So anyone who sat in labor negotiations, it's a series of passing of proposals back and forth. It's, you actually have to come with ideas on economics, on the local economy, on health and safety, whatever the issues are, and pass those back and forth. And the government is not actually giving the mandate to the negotiators who are sitting at the table. I'm hearing from negotiators who have been at the table from the teacher side. They're like, we have never seen anything like this in terms of incompetence.
And the government is saying, well, we did say we'd give a little bit on the class size and stuff, but then the unions are saying, well, you haven't formalized that offer. And there's a lot of back and forth on that for sure. Hi, I'm Vashi Capellos, host of Power in Politics. See more of our show by subscribing to the CBC News channel or click the link for another video.